Dread. It has an arrival time, doesn't it? Somewhere between 4 and 6 on a Sunday afternoon. The light changes, the weekend goes quiet, and something in your chest turns over like a key. You could be mid laugh, mid walk, mid glass of something, and it still finds you at its usual hour, like an appointment you never made but always keep. The world has given it cute names, the Sunday scaries, the Sunday blues, and the cuteness is doing something sinister. It files a real signal under universal joke so that nobody, including you, ever has to ask what yours is actually saying. So here is what this video will do. By the end of it, you will know what that feeling actually is. And it is not anxiety and it is not about Monday's meetings. You will know what it is measuring because it is a measurement and a surprisingly precise one. And you will know the one question to ask it next Sunday instead of pouring something on it that begins turning it from a weekly ambush into the most useful information your life is currently sending you. I can tell you the exact hour mine used to arrive because it kept the same time for years, 6 o'clock, Sunday evening. In my life as a city lawyer, I would be laying out Monday's clothes, a small ritual that was supposed to feel organized. And instead, it felt like lying out a costume. The work phone, which had been mercifully quiet since Saturday, would give its first blink of the new week. And I remember noticing one particular Sunday something that unsettled me more than the workload ever did. My voice had already changed. I was still at home. Nobody from the office was in the room, and I was already speaking, thinking, even standing differently. The week had not started, but I had already started becoming the person it required. I did not have the language for that observation then. It took me 2 more careers and a framework of my own to understand what I had actually noticed. So let me give you now what nobody gave me then, the anatomy of the feeling. Start with what the feeling is not, because the standard explanations quietly fail the evidence of your own life. The standard story says you are anticipating the week, the workload, the meetings, the inbox. But run your own test. You have had Sundays before, an easy week, a light diary, even a week you were looking forward to in parts. And the feeling came anyway, at its usual hour, at its usual weight. And you have probably noticed the reverse. People with objectively brutal Mondays who feel nothing on Sunday night at all. If the dread were about the calendar, it would rise and fall with the calendar. It does not. It keeps its own schedule, which tells you it is tracking something the diary does not show. And one honest sentence before we go deeper, because it matters. If your week ahead involves a workplace that is genuinely unsafe or a boss who is genuinely cruel, then your Sunday feeling is accurate fear, and it deserves a different video and probably a different job. What I am describing is the other thing, the dread that arrives even when the job is fine, especially when the job is fine and you feel you have no right to the feeling at all. Here is what it is tracking. Watch yourself on a Sunday afternoon, or better, have someone who loves you describe you on a Saturday afternoon. The voice is different, slower, lower, easily amused. The posture is different. The pace of your thoughts, what you find funny, how available your attention is to the people in front of you. That person, the Saturday afternoon person, is not a holiday version of you. By every honest measure, that is the least performed self you have. Now put that person next to the one who will walk in on Monday at 9. The edited voice, the managed face, the opinions filed down to the size the room prefers. For some people, the distance between those two selves is small, a change of register, nothing more. And their Sunday evenings are calm. For others, the distance is a chasm, and their Sunday evenings are not. That is the secret the cute names are hiding. The dread is a measurement. It is measuring with remarkable precision the distance between the self you have been all weekend and the self Monday requires you to produce. A small gap reads as mild reluctance. A wide one reads as dread. Your Sunday evenings is not a mood. It is a reading on an instrument, and it has been trying to hand you the number for years. And once you see it as a measurement, you can finally name the feeling itself correctly, because it never was anxiety. Anxiety is fear of what might happen, but you know exactly what will happen on Monday. It happens every week. There is no uncertainty in it at all. The feeling is morning. Every Sunday, at the same hour, you begin saying goodbye to someone. The weekend self, the truer voiced one, the one who will not be fully seen again until Friday evening. You are not afraid of the week. You are grieving in advance on schedule. The version of you that the week does not have room for. That is why it feels heavy rather than jittery. That is why it arrives before anything has happened. Dread is grief that arrives before the loss. And this explains the strangest feature of the feeling, the one the anxiety story never could. Why no amount of Sunday night preparation ever makes it better. You can lay out the clothes, clear the inbox, plan the week to the minute, and the weight does not move. Of course it does not. You cannot organize your way out of mourning. You were never disorganized. You were bereaved, weakly, without a name for it. It also explains why the feeling picks Sunday afternoon of all the hours it could choose, because the handover does not happen at 9 on Monday morning. It happens the moment you begin rehearsing, the first work thought that goes unhidden through a Sunday afternoon, the first glance at the phone, the first adjustment of your own voice, like mine at 6 o'clock all those years ago. Monday's self casts a shadow backwards, and the shadow falls across Sunday, which means something quietly outrageous is happening to your time, and almost nobody bills for it. The week does not begin on Monday morning. It begins on Sunday afternoon, the moment you start becoming the person it requires. Those hours are the toll you pay before the bridge, and most people have paid it every week for so long they have stopped noticing it is a payment. Now, the cost of leaving all this unnamed, because it compounds. When the feeling has no accurate name, people treat it like weather, something to shelter from until it passes. So the Sunday rituals develop. The glass of wine that becomes two, the scroll that eats the evening, the early night, taken not from tiredness, but from a wish to fast forward. And every one of those works for exactly one evening. Then the next Sunday, the appointment is kept again because you have been medicating a message. The feeling is not weather, it is information. It keeps arriving because it has not yet been read. And it will keep its schedule for 20 years if you let it. Because unread information does not expire. One caution while we are here, and it matters. Information is not an institution. This video is not telling you to resign on Monday. A reading on an instrument tells you the distance. It does not tell you the route. Some gaps close with honest adjustments inside a job that is fundamentally right. Some are telling you something larger, but no version of the route can be chosen until the number has actually been read. So, how do you read it? Two honest tests, 1 minute each. First, the rest test in a single sentence. If a genuinely restful weekend still ends in dread, then energy was never the issue, and no amount of better weekends will fix a weekday problem. Second, the specificity test. And this one is the key that opens next Sunday. When the feeling arrives, ask what exactly you are saying goodbye to. Not the weekend, that is the lazy answer. Which trait? The unhurried voice? The person who laughs easily? The one whose opinions come out unfiled? The one who is actually present with the children? The answer to that question is not trivia. It is a description in your own words of what your current working life costs you weekly, itemized by the most honest instrument you own. If someone you love goes quiet on Sunday afternoons, send them this. The feeling is easier to read in company. And subscribe, because this channel exists to put accurate names on the feelings everyone has and nobody explains. So here is the move this coming Sunday, and it costs 5 minutes. When the feeling arrives at its usual hour, do not pour anything on it and do not scroll past it. Sit with it for 1 minute, like a message you finally intend to open, and ask it one question. Who am I about to stop being? Then write down the first three answers that come, however small they may seem. The slower voice, the easy laugh, the unhurried attention. Keep the list. Do it for 3 Sundays. By the third week, you will be holding something almost nobody in your position has. An itemized account of the gap written by the only witness who was there every week. Everything that can change changes after that. Before I give you the map this all sits on, one piece of arithmetic, delivered slowly because it is the reason this matters. A working life holds roughly 2,000 Sunday evenings. 2,000. Count how many you have already spent in the feeling we have just named. Rehearsing a goodbye at the same hour to the same self week after week. For some of you watching, the honest number is already in the hundreds. Nobody gets those evenings back. But here is what the arithmetic also says, and I want you to hear it as the door it is. Every Sunday that is still ahead of you is undecided. The appointment is standing, but who keeps it and in what spirit and for how many more years, that has not been written anywhere. 2,000 evenings is a fortune. You are allowed to want the rest of yours back. The wider culture will keep telling you to fix your Sunday routine, the prep, the early night, the phone in another room. None of it is wrong, and none of it touches the actual feeling, because the feeling was never a routine problem. It is an identity signal, and for identity, you need a map. So I built one, and I call it the becoming map. A before self, a liminal space, an emerging self, the three territories of every major becoming. And here is what it showed me about Sunday evenings. That weekly heaviness is the smallest version of the map's middle territory. A little in between, crossed every single week, between the self you rest and the self you work as. Most people only meet the in between at life's big turning points. You have been meeting a miniature of it every Sunday at 5 o'clock, which means you already know more about your own becoming than you think. The feeling was the map trying to introduce itself. Tell me in the comments, and I read everyone, what time does yours arrive? The hour, and the one thing from the list, one thing you realized you are saying goodbye to each week. You'll be surprised how many people share your exact hour. Subscribe if this named something you have carried for years. This channel puts language on the seasons and signals nobody explains. And there is a video waiting below on the two kinds of tired, which is the natural next question after this one.